Okay, inshallah. So let's take a look at this problem, and then we'll move ahead from there, inshallah. So on the right here, you have what amount of these assets are going to be zakatable. Okay. So in personal and business, it's the full amounts. In equity investments, we said to use the proxy, so that's 30%. RRSP, access, savings, meaning it's the full amount minus taxes and penalties, which says the penalties were $1,000. That's 7,400. And our ESP, access and invested, so we're taking the proxy amount. And I don't think we applied the penalties and stuff here. In any case, if there were penalties and taxes there, you would apply those. And the sum of all of these items on the right was what you have down here, 54,270, and then 2.5% of that is the 1,356. All right. Any questions on this one? Okay, moving on. The last two sections. First, about collectibles. So collectibles can be in any form. It could be, a valuable stamp collection. It could be coins. It could be antique products, or it could be sports cards, or lately what's been more common, NFTs. Zakat is not due on collectibles, okay, as a general rule. But if you are treating the collectibles just like you treat business merchandise, you're buying it to sell it at a profit short term within 1 year, then zakat will be due on that as well. Just like in stocks, right? It depends if you're doing a short term or long term. If you're doing a short term, then it's only on, if you're doing a short term, then it's like your business merchandise that you're buying and selling. So zakat is due on the full value. If it's long term, then that's like an investment. Here, if it's long term, then it's just a collectible. It's not for any gain or business transactions, business dealings. So there's no zakat due on that. The exception is if you have a coin collection of gold and silver, right? Because like we said, that gold and silver have that intrinsic value of wealth. So in this case, even if it's for collectibles purpose, then zakat will be due on that. Okay, and you could determine that in a number of ways. One is if you know how much amount of gold or silver is in those coins, you pay zakat on that amount, or you just look at what the value of those coins are right now. That would be determined based on the gold or silver in there, and you pay zakat on that amount. Okay, so generally collectibles, there's not zakat. Cryptocurrencies. Now, cryptocurrencies are something still relatively very new to the world. And there's still a lot of different opinions about whether it's permissible or not itself, and then how to calculate zakat on it. Okay, so I'm telling you this now. Next year, this may be different. Okay, but currently, just to let you know where things stand, most scholars around the world don't yet consider cryptocurrencies permissible. Okay, I'm not getting into the details why. Those who do, most of them say that only Bitcoin and Ethereum are permissible. Okay, because those are the most established ones. And there's certain conditions that apply to currencies to be considered a currency in Sharia, as to how they're used or how they're traded and so on. So only these two meet those conditions right now. Okay, so that's where the rulings differ based on the type of currency. So there's three approaches here: cautious approach, balanced, balanced, and then the undesirable approach. Cautious approach is that regardless of what cryptocurrency you may have, you treat it just like any other currency and pay zakat on the full amount. Just like you would pay on cash, that's another currency, whatever type it may be, pay zakat on the full amount. Okay, that's simple. The balanced approach, if you want to call it balanced, is you treat Bitcoin and Ethereum as currencies. So you pay zakat on the full amount of those. And any other cryptocurrency investments that you have, treat those as equity investments as though they were shares in a company. And then you apply all those rules to this. So either you do the calculations or you just use the proxy, most likely will apply to that. Okay. And then the least preferred approach is where you treat all of the cryptocurrencies as equity investments, because that's where you would be paying the least amount of zakat. So it's better not to use that route. Like I said, there's still different opinions. I mean, according to those scholars who say that cryptocurrency is not permissible at all, then no zakat is due on them. Because like we said, on any impermissible wealth, no zakat is due. Right? So there's a lot of, I mean, anyone you ask about this is probably going to give you a different answer right now. There's a lot of uncertainty about this still, and it's something that's still evolving, and the rulings may change over the years. Zakat al-Fitr, quickly. This is the zakat that's due before Eid al-Fitr, before the Salat of Eid al-Fitr. It's due on every person. Okay, it's due on every person, child, adult, male, female, on everyone. There's no nisab for Zakat al-Fitr. Everyone has to pay it. The only case where it wouldn't be due is if there's young children who themselves don't have wealth, and the parents are living in very difficult financial situations where they don't have enough for their daily expenses. If they don't even have enough money for that, then they don't have to pay Zakat al-Fitr. If they have enough for one day, usually they say day and night expenses, then Zakat al-Fitr is due on them as well. And the purpose of this is that people who are in need, they're able to enjoy their Eid to a certain degree as well. That's why it has to be paid before Eid. What about unborn child? No. For unborn child, there's no Zakat al-Fitr. Okay. The amount, it varies. It's based off of the price of like dates or wheat or barley, the different ways to calculate it. Usually it's been $10 in the past, most of the time. This year, many masjids are considering increasing it to like $15 or $20 because of prices have gone up so much and everything. So to make it more beneficial for those who would receive it. But just look to your local masjid, whatever amount they set, you could just pay that for each person. And the recipients are the same as zakat, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Who could receive zakat, where to discharge zakat. We have one practice problem here. We're going to come back to this at the end, inshallah. This is the most detailed one. Okay. Discharging zakat. So a few things we need to look at over here. Who could receive it? Who can't receive it? Where should you give it? Where is it preferred to give it? But starting off with, when you go to discharge your zakat, there are two ways to do this. One is you give the wealth directly to the recipients. This is my zakat, take it, done. The second is you give it to somewhere else. Okay, you give it to a masjid who will deliver it forward to someone. You give it to an institute who will deliver it to their students who are in need, or so on. Then you are not delivering to the recipient, but you must have the intention that I am paying my zakat when you give it to those agents, if you want to call them, who are going to convey it ahead. Okay. Another scenario is where your zakat date has come. Let's say it comes today. Okay, and you want to pay your zakat in Ramadan. Most people do because the reward is multiplied manyfold. The best way to do it is to put do your calculations based off today, and then put that amount of money aside, that this is my zakat, right? If you can do it physically, that this cash, this is for zakat, that's better. It's more defined, right? Or just at the very least, have it known that this amount in my bank account is for my zakat. I'm not going to touch that. If that's the case, then when you put that money aside, you have to have the intention of discharging zakat at that time. Okay, and then it's permissible to pay zakat ahead of time. Right? Let's say your zakat date comes in Shawwal, you want to pay it in Ramadan, but you know how much you're going to have at that time, roughly. You could do the calculation and pay it in Ramadan. And then when that date comes, look back, did I make any mistakes or wrong calculations? If you did, then adjust accordingly and pay the balance off. Okay. And same thing, like I said, you could, if your date has come, you want to pay it later on, you could do that as well. Okay. Who could receive zakat? In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outlines 8 recipients. Okay, I'll explain briefly who they are. The poor and the needy are very similar. If you want to differentiate, the poor is anyone who has below nisab. They don't have savings equal to the nisab. The needy is someone who doesn't have enough for their daily expenses. Okay, some mufassirin have said the opposite, that this one is that, this one is that, but generally someone who is poor, who is in need. See, that's what it comes down to. Those employed to administer zakat, what we call al-amilina alayha. So this used to be in the form of many Sahaba were employed for this. They would go out. Your job was to collect zakat funds from people, and then those people who are employed, they could be paid from the zakat funds. Okay. Nowadays, this is very similar to different organizations who collect zakat funds, and then they convey them ahead. So they are allowed to use a certain amount for the cost that comes into conveying that ahead. It's better not to. Some use about 5-10%, some don't use any. But it varies from different organizations. But that is permissible. That falls under this category as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it al-amilina alayha, those working for zakat, working for the sake of zakat. Okay. Number 4, al-mu'allafatul qulub, those whose hearts need to be softened towards Islam. This in official capacities doesn't apply anymore. Okay, in the time of Umar anhu, the ijma, the consensus of the Sahaba was that Islam has now gained enough strength that this is will no longer be given to people, right? Because the purpose of this was in the beginning days of Islam, those people who had just come into Islam were very inclined to draw them closer by giving them financial gain. Right? But once Islam was established, and now it's established, it's exponentially more than before, right? So this no longer applies. Nowadays, no one gives out this category of zakat. Okay? Those in slavery, slaves could receive zakat. Those in debt, right? So remember, we mentioned that you can make someone owner of nisab by giving them zakat. But if they are in debt, you could give them, even if you want the full amount of their debt to pay it off, because you won't be making them owner of nisab. Those in the way of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls fi sabilillah. So this is if someone is out on an expedition, it could be for different reasons. So they may be eligible to receive zakat funds. And the last one is the destitute traveler, someone who is traveling. They have funds back at home, but they have no access to them where they are at that time. They could take zakat funds to get by where they are at that time. Yes.
This is a scenario of poor countries, like in back home, some people borrow money on interest, and the money lender, later on they pressure give them the interest money. So can someone pay a zakat from zakat money to pay that interest?
It's better to just pay the capital amount.
So in fact, the other day one person came to me and said that money under harassing me and work pressure and because of the part time. When the person was kind to me, so with this kind of thing.
So basically, saying someone who has they've paid off the loan, but now they owe interest on it. Can you give them?
The capital is too high.
The capital is too high.
Interest amount like 2,000.
So what you do in that case, you give your zakat to that person, and tell them you use it how you need it. What they do then is up to them after that.
The money will be zakat paid.
Yeah, your need to be, I'm giving this person who is in debt and giving them zakat. Then what they do with it, that's up to them afterwards. So these are the underlying categories. Now, in terms of practically giving out zakat, you cannot give zakat to any immediate family members. Okay, parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, spouses. Okay. In some cases, some scholars have said that the husband could give the wife zakat, but even that is greatly discouraged because the matter is that you should not directly or indirectly benefit from your zakat wealth in any way that you've given. Okay, so if you're going to give it to your parents, for example, they're going to spend it on you, you can't do that. You're going to give it to your spouse, they may not buy something directly for you with that wealth, but indirectly, now they have more wealth, they may buy something for you, right? Or they may help you in some way. So that's why for immediate family members, you cannot give zakat. Extended family members, cousins, uncles, aunts, nieces, nephews, you could give zakat. But again, you need to see that, is this person involved in my life to such an extent that I may benefit from this wealth that I'm giving them? If that is the case, then you should not give them the zakat either. Okay. Tax receipts for zakat funds. Basically, the way a tax receipt works is when you make a tax donation, you get a receipt for that and you get a rebate on your taxes. Right? Sometimes it's in the form of getting money back from the government. So it is permissible to use tax receipts for zakat funds, but it's better that whatever money you get back as a rebate from the government, donate that again. Okay, because you shouldn't be benefiting from the zakat that you gave in any way. That could be donation. Yeah, that could be donation. That's fine. Yeah, right. And lastly, anyone who is a Sayyid from the direct family of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they cannot receive zakat funds. But this was at the time when there was a system of Baytul Mal, of the Islamic treasury, and they were, if anyone from the Sayyids were in need of wealth, they would be paid from there. They would get wealth from there. Nowadays, because these systems don't exist in most of the world, many scholars do say that if there is a Sayyid who is in dire need, that there may be some flexibility for them to receive zakat. But it's still preferred not, because zakat is, like Sheikh Adil mentioned in the beginning, is considered the filth of the wealth that we're purifying out. Right, and the Sayyid, because they're from the lineage of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that it's not suitable for them to take such wealth. That's the reason for that. Yes, Brother Tayyib, your question?
Yes, so I'm wondering, to the point where it says those in debt. So suppose there's an Islamic center, a musalla, let's say, and they're in debt currently. Is that something we could?
No, you can't. That's my next slide. I'm going to talk about.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Okay. You can't give zakat to a masjid. You can't give zakat to an Islamic institute or to any public charity projects. Okay. But for a masjid, you could give them zakat and they're going to convey it ahead. They can't use it for their expenses. Okay. A masjid cannot use zakat for their own expenses. They can't use it to pay their employee wages, for their rent if they have, utilities. They can't use zakat for that. Islamic institutes like Al-Ihsan, you can't give us zakat for our expenses. Okay. We take zakat, but we conveyed ahead to students who don't have the financial means to pay their fees, and they paid from that. Okay. So same thing with public charity projects. You can't give zakat directly to the project. Okay. The reason for that is that tamliq is one of the tamliq, meaning transfer of ownership to an individual. That is one of the pillars of zakat. Like in Salat, you have, Qiyam as a pillar. If you don't do Qiyam, your Salat's not valid. Tamliq is one of the main pillars, rukns of zakat. So if there is a water pump, for example, I have here a well or something someone is building. If there is an organization that is collecting zakat funds, they must have a format where the condition of tamliq is being fulfilled. Okay, and the best way to do that, the most authentic way, is that in the area where these things are being built or these needs are, the funds are given to individuals as a zakat, and then they use those for the purpose of those projects. Okay, because that condition of transferring to an individual, a person, that is required. Okay, so like the brother asked, if the masjid is in debt, you can't give them zakat. Right? If there's someone in the community who is eligible for zakat, you could give them zakat. It can't be conditional that I'm giving you zakat, you have to pay off the debt of the masjid. No. You can give them zakat. If they want now, they could use the zakat funds and pay off the now once you give them the funds, it's not zakat anymore. It's their money now. They could use it now, give it to the masjid or whatever they want. Okay? This is an extremely important condition. And I mean, all the institutes or masjids or organizations, they generally all know this. At least the main big ones, all the ones you're gonna hear about today, they all follow this practice. So don't worry about that. But you sometimes people do make appeals that give zakat for this purpose, for this project. So you need to go in and make sure that how are they fulfilling this condition. Okay. Any questions? Oh yes, Brother Tay, you had a question?
Yeah, I think I can. It's still related to this, but I think we can. If we have time at the end, I can be more specific and ask a question at the end.
Okay. No problem. Okay, now we will look at some of the organizations that we have partnering with us or sponsoring this event. Many of them work very closely in many causes where zakat funds are used, right? And like I said, that the ones that we have, the ones that we work with, we make sure that they fulfill these conditions of tamliq and so on. So you don't have to worry about that. First, like I mentioned about, I'll come back to that in a second. Al-Ihsan, we also accept zakat funds. We have many educational programs that are tuition based, and there are many people who are often not able to pay for the tuition, so they ask for discounts and everything. Our practice has always been that we don't deny anyone access to Islamic education because of their financial situation. So in many cases, those people are eligible for zakat. So we sign a contract with them where they make us the wakil, the agent, to receive zakat on their behalf. So when we do get zakat, it's applied to it's applied to them. So they become the owner of those funds, and then it comes to us. So that condition of tamliq is fulfilled that way. There are many institutes around the world that follow a bit of a different practice, where it's we call it a hila in Sharia. Basically, it's like a way around it. It's preferred not to do it that way, where people give the institute zakat funds, and then they find someone, one of their people who is zakat eligible, they give it to them, and then they give it back to them. So basically, they purify the wealth that way, right? So it's better not to do that, because you're just playing around with the rules and trying to find a way around it. It's better to be given in the actual channels.
Can we pay, like, I have zakat money, but I'm not finding proper sources to give money. So one is me, and can you give because the hasana for some needy people?
No. So when he's asking, can you give zakat funds as a loan, basically, right? No, because once you give zakat, There shouldn't be, it shouldn't be any type of situation where the funds may come back to you in any way. You're giving it, it's out of your ownership now and you're done with it. That's it.
It's not spent, just me. I don't find any source to give it.
Oh, there's lots of sources. You can still see. There's no shortage of people who are in need of zakat funds. No, you can't do that. Okay. Now, in terms of the guidelines that Sharia has given us where to discharge zakat, one is who can receive it, right? And one is where should you give it. So one is that if there is a need locally, Sharia has given more emphasis to that you fulfill that need, okay? Especially if it's a relative. Relatives come first, whether they're local, overseas. If you have family members who are in need, Sharia says to give it to them first, then to anyone else, right? Then after that, you need to assess and see what are the needs of the world at this time, which causes are more in need of funds, and then you could decide whether you want to give it locally. Internationally is completely fine as well. More often than not, because we're in Canada, international causes are more in need of zakat funds. So it really varies, it depends. Right? So you need to assess and see what you think, what channel will be, what channel can you use that will make the zakat more beneficial for the recipients. So we're going to start off with Islamic Relief. There's a short video that I'll play for you, and then Brother Tahir, who's here with us from Islamic Relief, will say a few words, and then we'll work through them one at a time.
Bombs rained down on Iraq and Afghanistan. We were there, saving lives. When famine swept across Ethiopia.
Sorry, I don't think I did that. I don't think the online students can hear. I'm going to redo that.
Yeah, it's the audio is there too.
Bombs rained down on Iraq and Afghanistan. We were there, saving lives. When famine swept across Ethiopia, Sudan and Niger, we were there providing life-saving care. When floods devastated Pakistan, we injected £7.8 million worth of relief, helping hundreds of thousands of people. When Bangladesh was wrecked by cyclones and floods, when earthquakes destroyed Pakistan and Haiti, we were there saving lives, the first on the ground in Haiti. In Gaza, we are the largest international relief organization. There, each time conflict erupts and innocent lives are taken. When genocide gripped Bosnia and Darfur, when Ebola ravaged Sierra Leone, when disasters crushed Indonesia, Nepal, and the Philippines, we were there each time. And we're there now, in over 40 countries worldwide. Together, we've been saving lives since 1984. When disasters happen, we can respond fast, going deeper into places others can't, like Aleppo, Iraq, Yemen, Balochistan and Helmand. Our religious and cultural understandings mean that we can work in sensitive areas that some charities are unable to access. We are the only Muslim charity in the Disasters Emergency Committee, so when an emergency happens, we come together with other leading organizations to be as effective as possible. When a disaster is over and the cameras go home, we stay, rebuilding lives, homes, schools, hospitals, livelihoods, and water systems, like these 36 boreholes across Somaliland, or our £5.5 million oncology unit in South Africa, which is treating cancer patients, providing transplants, tumour surgery, intensive care, and radiology. We're rebuilding the lives of orphans affected by loss. We're currently helping over 55,000 orphans in 20 countries worldwide. Because of you, we're prepared. Early warning systems, local rescue teams, raised houses, drought-resistant crops, economics, food storage and water systems that harness the energy of the sun, protect entire communities from disasters, saving lives before they're lost. We're in over 40 countries worldwide, on the ground now. We continue to help people in Myanmar and displaced families living in Rakhine. We're on the ground in East Africa, in Somalia, Kenya, Ethiopia and Sudan, fighting the effects of famine. In Syria and the surrounding countries, we've distributed a staggering £185 million worth of relief. And in Yemen, we are in more areas than any other humanitarian organisation in the world. The Quran says, whoever saved a life, it would be as if they saved the life of all mankind. It is estimated that over 110 million lives have been saved and changed since Islamic Relief began. None of this would have been possible without the grace of Allah and without your help. So thank you. Because of you, Islamic Relief has been saving lives since 1984.
Okay, and we have Brother Tahir with us. Sorry about that. We have Brother Tahir with us here from Islamic Relief. He will share a few words with you, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, you guys, everybody knows Ramadan is just around the corner. And alhamdulillah, I would like to thank Al-Ihsan for having this wonderful class, because with this, we'll be able to bring ourselves up to speed with the things that we need to do in the month of Ramadan, and we can benefit from it. From the video that you guys seen, alhamdulillah, we're in 40 different countries around the world, including Afghanistan, Yemen, Palestine, Bangladesh, India, and supplying humanitarian aid all around those countries, alhamdulillah. We were able to help last year with your support, your donation, 3.2 million people around the world. 100 projects were implemented. And the biggest thing that you can get from Islamic Relief, that one thing that I liked when I joined with them about a year back, is that you can follow your donation, which is amazing. Like, you can get videos, reports, emails, and you're able to know what is happening and where your donation is going. And with that, you guys were also able to help us last year with over 20,000 orphans around the world. And if there's any questions that you guys have today from myself or our team, I'll be here at the back. We are collecting Zakat, Sadaqah, and donations today as well. And I would once again like to thank Mtj Al-Ihsan for having us being sponsored with this event, inshallah. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Tahir. Next up, we have the National Zakat Foundation. Now, before we have Sheikh Nabil here with us, the regional manager for BC for the National Zakat Foundation. One of the things that is a unique feature of National Zakat Foundation is that they focus on giving zakat locally. We talked about how there's different guidelines for that, and Sheikh Nabil will speak more to that, inshallah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله تعالى وبركاته.
الصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. أما بعد, inshallah, everybody's enjoying the program with Sheikh Taha. This is the third year, right, Sheikh Taha, that we have done this, alhamdulillah. And I'm the regional representative of National Zakat Foundation, as Sheikh Taha mentioned. Our focus at National Zakat Foundation is helping people that are in need within Canada. And all of the funds that we receive are always distributed within Canada. And this is something that we restrict ourselves to. And this is because we find that there's a lot of people, locally that are in need of help and support, and that's what we need to provide them. Now, another aspect of National Zakat Foundation that we focus on is educating on zakat. So as month of Ramadan comes, most people will be paying their zakat. We're focused, one thing is to help people to discharge the zakat, to collect the zakat, and to get it to the right eligible individuals. But another very important part of National Zakat Foundation is educating people on zakat. Not only the benefits of zakat, the purpose of zakat, but the rules that come with zakat. So this program that you're enjoying today with Sheikh Taha, we'll be doing inshallah many more of these programs throughout the month of Ramadan with Sheikh Taha, with myself, with other ulama across the country. And we will be also facilitating for people to have very intimate dealings with us and with the ulama of National Zakat Foundation. So Sheikh Taha himself, along with myself and other ulama, during the month of Ramadan, we will be having consultations where people can book with us online. And if they have very specific zakat questions in terms of paying zakat on their investment, their stocks, their house, their real estate, their portfolio net worth, their liabilities, all of those aspects that you're learning today. And sometimes, it's very thick knowledge and it's hard to implement. Inshallah, myself, Sheikh Taha, all of us, inshallah, we're planning to provide the service to the public in the month of Ramadan and after the month of Ramadan as well. We did this last year, and alhamdulillah, we had over, I think, 400 or 500 questions. And we had almost 15 bookings every single week, and half-an-hour bookings, and a range of numerous people. And we were helping people make up for their zakat. We help people that they spend maybe 5-6 years not knowing the obligation of zakat. We help them go back and pay their zakat. We help people calculate correctly. We help people understand the rules of where to pay and how to pay and the restrictions. And as I mentioned, without taking too much time, Sheikh Taha will be joining us inshallah with this, and we'll be having more programs. So they're all free, available to you. It's all just for the benefit of the public. So we hope that you take this. If you know somebody else that needs this type of education or this knowledge, then inshallah we're willing to provide for everybody, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Nabil. Okay, next up we have one of the third partners with us on this event, the Mtj Foundation. Now this foundation is short for the Maulana Tariq Jamil Foundation. It's relatively new around the world and even more new here in Canada. Some of those things will be shared with you in the video. So I'll let the video explain to you, and then we'll move forward, inshallah.
Maulana Tariq Jamil Foundation. Revive the love of humanity. From the life of anonymity, Maulana Tariq Jamil embarked on a journey to spread the word of Allah and change lives spiritually. 4 decades later, Maulana's passion and dedication then led him to transform the lives of those in need and suffering economically. To serve the purpose, Maulana Tariq Jamil Foundation was established in 2019 to help the less fortunate. Founded in a small town Talamba, the birthplace of Maulana, it later became operational in the whole district of Khanewal. The aim is to serve humanity and end the suffering of people in need. The Mtj Foundation is providing shelters to the homeless, healthcare facilities, availability of clean drinking water, feeding the hungry, scholarship for deserving students, assistance in marrying poor girls, and financial aid to poor families, orphans and widows. 2 of Maulana Tariq Jamil's educational projects, Al-Ihsan School System and Al-Ihsan Islamic Institute, are also funded by the foundation. Now Mtj Foundation aims to expand the scope of its charity to further areas in Pakistan and the rest of the world. And only our compassionate community and generous donors can make it possible. Join hands with us to save and serve humanity.
Okay, so as I mentioned, they're still relatively new. But alhamdulillah, the initiatives they've undertaken are very unique and very special. Next up, we have the UNHCR, and alhamdulillah, we're very happy to announce to have them with us this year for the first time. The UNHCR, they are the refugee agency for the UN. And alhamdulillah, Al-Ihsan is forming a new partnership with them, with their Islamic Philanthropy team. We have Brother Muhammad with us from their team. He'll be giving a short presentation about their work as well, inshallah. So Brother Muhammad, please feel free to take over.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Brother Taha, and assalamu alaikum, everybody. Ramadan Mubarak to everybody. If you allow me, please to share my screen so I can share my.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much. So it's a great pleasure to partner with Al-Ihsan. It's the first time to be part of the Fiqh Zakat workshop, and we are very happy about this relationship and this partnership, and to participate and share. Yeah, so can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Very good. So when we talk about, like, this is going to be very quick because I know, like, I'm conscious about the time. When you talk about the United Nations, everybody's asking these questions all the time. How come we talk about, like, Islamic philanthropy within United Nations system? As you all know, United Nations is a secular organization, and when it comes to talk about faith-based philanthropy, this is like the first of its kind program. But just let me give you a context where this came from. So UNHCR, like 70 years old, 3 times of Nobel Peace Prize winners, overseeing over 82 million. And with the Ukraine situation, we're talking about like 85 million plus. And we're operating in 135 countries on the ground. Like whenever there is any displacement, we're always in the ground. And the sad part, 60% of those people are Muslims. And we came to the time, like a few years back, where we had to take heartbreaking decisions to cut services. And we don't want to get to that point. And we had to think outside the box because we are mandated for the assistance, protection, and durable solutions of refugees and the people in need. And this led the organization to think very thoroughly in terms of what can we do in an innovative manner so we can respond to the needs of our brothers and sisters. So we looked into this context from a perspective that refugees fall under 4 categories, as Brother Taha mentioned briefly. The 8 categories mentioned in the Quran, refugees fall under 4 out of them, as they're the poor, the stranded travelers, the debtors, and the wayfarers. And with that in mind, we have been in consultation with significant Muslim scholars and institutions. Look, this is the fact, 85 million people, 60% of them are Muslims. What shall we do? So our prospect is to connect Muslims with resources, with brothers and sisters who need those resources. And we looked into channeling the zakat and the sadaqah into those big brothers and sisters in need. And in order to do that, we have to, zakat is a farida. And we are very cautious. This is a very, very sensitive topic. So for an organization like United Nations to come in to jump in this kind of area, we have to follow the rules in terms of establishing an infrastructure where we can be a Sharia compliant. So therefore, UNHCR waived its overhead cost. the 6.5% being gone, dedicating 100% of the zakat money to people in need. And as a United Nations mandated organization for refugees, we do have the database for all refugees in the world, and we can easily identify the most vulnerable people. Therefore, we have established this program, Refugee Zakat Fund, where we receive zakat, sadaqah, and sadaqah jariyah. And very soon I'm gonna reveal the main findings of our 2022 report, and it's a great pleasure to reveal this report at this workshop, and this is to translate our partnership with Al-Ihsan. And so with that in mind, we received 13 fatwas from those significant Muslim scholars and institutions, lately from the Canadian Council of Imams, to endorse UNHCR as an eligible zakat recipient of the zakat from Muslims and to give it to brothers and sisters in need for that. So we have many partners from different parts of the world, from Africa, from Asia, from the Middle East, from North America, and in Canada. Alhamdulillah, we have like set a very, we're very honored to have this list of organizations partner with us. And currently we're discussing an agreement, partnership agreement with Islamic Relief Canada, as well as in the United States. And the program is growing. It's like only a year and a half of age in North America. And this is to translate how we value our partners from Canada and beyond. So today, I'm very honored to reveal the main findings of this report, because for this program, we do have a third party going on the ground to check that everything is Sharia compliant. And we have a global report, annual global report, where we show where the money came from, where we spend the money. So for the last year, Alhamdulillah, over 35 million been received in a form of zakat and sadaqah. This is part of the 150 million received since 2017. One of the significant parts that UNHCR is doing in this zakat refugee fund, 90% of the zakat received are being given in a form of cash assistance. We believe this is a platform, or this is a way that we can maintain and the dignity for people. People can decide what they want to spend the money on. Most of the Muslim scholars actually advise to give the zakat in the form of cash. We understand the challenges that so many Muslim charities facing in terms of giving cash. We can give cash for so many different reasons. A, we know where the money goes. B, we have a tracking system to ensure that all this money going for basic needs like medicine, paying for rents, food, buying water, and all these kind of like basic needs. And these people are refugees, and we use technology as much as possible. I give you example, Jordan. We use iris scan, where refugees go to ATM machine and they cash their money. That level of transparency to ensure that we can, and we want to continue enlarging giving cash assistance to people to maintain their dignity. They need it that way. So in the last year, alhamdulillah, 1.2 million people, refugees, benefited from this program. And this is like in countries like Yemen, Bangladesh, Syrian refugees, Afghanistan, and Rohingya, like all these in crisis. We've been managed to give zakat in 14 countries. And this is adding to 4.5 million benefited from this program since it started in 2017. And in terms of form of sadaqah, we've been giving also like for shelter, for co-relief items, for livelihood projects, for food rations, and into different operations. And this shows all the figures and numbers in terms of like where did the money go and where the countries and the number of people. We have a highest level of transparency. All of our reports are online. Everybody can have access and see this information. We're also contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals, like in terms of reducing poverty, zero hunger, the quality of education, gender equality, and this is something also contributing to the overall good in the world. So good news for the last year, alhamdulillah, we've been able to provide 3 initiatives. We launched the mobile app, Give Zakat. Anybody can download this app to give mainly the Zakat al-Fitr, and be managing to give the Zakat al-Fitr in the month of Ramadan. And we had partners in Canada give Zakat al-Fitr to us, and we managed to deliver in the month of Ramadan even before Eid. And we've launched the Eid al-Adha as well as the first Dhul Hijjah campaign for the first time ever, and also the Refugee Give Zakat app. So that these were like mainly three initiatives we managed to like as a kind of development to this program. We also received like a new fatwas, alhamdulillah, including the Canadian Council of Imams, and that was significant in enforcing this program. One important element about refugees, 3% of them go to higher education, only 3%. And this is something really scary for the future of refugees, how they're going to help themselves, their communities, their families. And alhamdulillah, the Fiqh Council in Canada gave us a fatwa that we can channel the zakat into aiming higher program. And this year we're having a campaign across Canada for sponsoring 100 students for a full sponsorship of higher education. So inshallah, we'll be able to gather with the rest of all of our partners in Canada to send them, to bring them hope to their hearts so we can be in classes. Here's an example of Salma. Salma is senior refugees from Jordan, studied pharmacy, and we're sending, this is like to send refugees to universities where they are locating. And we would like to see refugees going back to school. And imagine like all of you have children, or you know with students, and you have been in schools and you know what it means. And sometimes we take it for granted. But for refugees, it is something only 3%. We would like to increase this number into at least 15%, so we can bring hope and smiles to those people's hearts. So I'm very happy. This is our, like, I know like we are very having very short time, and just wanted to share these kind of like main findings of our 2022 report. We're having these official workshops and seminars with Muslim charities and Muslim philanthropy organizations to launch the official launch of the report in countries like Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Nigeria, UK, and United States. So if you have any question, we'll be more happy to answer it. And you can access all the information about the Islamic Philanthropy Program at unhcr.ca for the Canada office. All these programs, like we give tax receipt, as Brother Taha previously mentioned, and we're looking into enlarging this partnership. One last thing I would like to mention, we are not doing a grassroots fundraising. I know Islamic Relief and all Zakat Foundation, all these Muslim charities do the grassroots fundraising. We are not doing that, and we don't want to do that. We don't have any intention. I just said like loud and clear. We do not have any intention to do grassroots fundraising, collecting zakat from mosques and institutions. We are here to partner with organizations like Al-Ihsan, like all the rest of organizations that you have seen, and many others, to help you channel the zakat to brothers and sisters. Refugees, 85 million people. When you think about this number, UNHCR as a mandated United Nations agency would like to be your partner, to work together, to channel, to bring smiles and hopes to as many refugees as possible. Jazakumullah khair, and I look forward to having relationships with many of you. And I'm sure like Brother Taha would like to say about like this relationship and partnership with UNHCR, the Islamic Philanthropy Program. And we are looking into enlarging and strengthening this relationship with Al-Ihsan and many other organizations. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Muhammad. And yes, as Brother Muhammad mentioned, we have many other programs coming up with UNHCR, some in the form of fundraising campaigns. More information that will be shared in the coming weeks, inshallah ta'ala. So as you can see, each foundation, each charity, they all bring very unique aspects. They all focus on specific areas. So as I mentioned earlier, it's up to each individual. Sometimes a specific cause that someone is working on is more dear to you. Sometimes you feel that someone will benefit more from your zakat funds. Ultimately, it's your decision to make where you think zakat will be most beneficial at that time. You can also give your zakat to different organizations, a bit to each one of them. That's also completely fine. But whatever you choose, inshallah, that is up to you. Inshallah, all the information, the contact information, and so on for all of these charities will be shared with everyone by email after the program, inshallah ta'ala. If anyone needs more information, you can get in touch with them, and I'm definitely sure each one of them would be more than happy to work with you and to answer any questions that you may have. The last section we're going to cover, and then we'll go into our Q&A session, is if someone has not paid zakat. If there's two situations. One is where you owe zakat overall, right? So now you need to go back and see. Maybe you learned something today that you thought zakat was due on, that wasn't due on. Now you learned that it is due. Maybe you made an incorrect calculation in the past. Now you need to go back and see. When did you acquire that type of wealth? How much of it did you have? And you need to pay zakat for each year that has passed since then. Sometimes it's difficult to find out exactly how much that is. So like we mentioned again and again, take the cautious route. If you think maybe I had 3,000 or maybe I had 3,200, take the 3,200. Always take the higher amount. That way you will be sure that you have discharged any zakat that may be owing on you. And similarly, if the zakat is on a specific asset, then you go back to that specific asset. Maybe you had a business for 10 years and you didn't know that zakat was due on business merchandise, for example. Now you need to go back, and if you have the paperwork, then that's perfect. You use that to determine how much zakat you owe from the previous years. If not, you do your best to estimate how much you had, and any zakat that is owing, you pay that off accordingly for each of the past years. So if you miss zakat for 10 years on something, you don't just pay it once, you owe it for each of those 10 years. So you add all those amounts together and then you pay that in your zakat. That is all that we have for our modules of this workshop. To summarize everything that we saw, you need to see how many assets you have, your zakatable assets. Right, how to calculate that, we saw all of that, minus any deductions or liabilities, debts, loans, we talked about all of that. And whatever is left, you will pay 2.5% on that as your zakat. Before we head on to the Q&A session, if there are any questions, a quick request. Like I said, this is our third year having this program. It's our first year having it on site as well. And we're continuously trying to make the program better. So anything that you would like to share with us, please jump to this link very quickly, ihsan.ca/feedback. There you could choose a Fiqh of Zakat workshop, and even if it's just a few lines, what you enjoyed about the program, what you thought was beneficial, any suggestions you have to things to do differently next time, anything you wanted to hear about but you didn't, you can just include any of that. I'll give you guys about 4 or 5 minutes for that, and then we'll jump into our Q&A session, and we'll complete the program after that, inshallah. Those of you who have the paper notes, there's a barcode there. You can just scan that and it'll take you to the page as well. Jazakallah khair. Okay, if there are any questions now, we can take those inshallah. So this some came in already online. So yeah, no, whoever puts it in first, I'll address them first, inshallah. Is the condition of tamliq still fulfilled when we give zakat to foundations that build hospitals, provide water, and so on? Usually it is. Like I said, they all have systems where the wealth is given to individuals who are in need, and then applied towards these projects. But it would be best for if anyone has that concern to check with each charity separately how exactly they fulfill that requirement. If one has more than one house, as one here and a couple back home, as in Pakistan, India, and used primarily for personal use and not for rent, are they zakatable? No, they are not. Even if a person has multiple residences, they stay in one at sometimes somewhere else at different times, zakat is not due on any of them. Even if they want the one they have that they never lived in, and they may not ever even live in, zakat is not due on that. The only time zakat is due on properties if it is for resale, when you bought it to resell it, then zakat is due. Yes.
So can we buy stuff by using zakat money and give it to poor people? Or we need to give zakat money?
You could. It's better always to give the cash ahead, but in cases where many times the people who will be receiving the funds, they don't even have the means. Even if they get the money, they don't have the means now to go and buy things for themselves, right? So in many cases it is okay if the zakat fund is used to buy things and then given ahead to those in need.
In some cases, like in that room, I see that rich men, they always buy for people wearing stuffs and they give to the poor people.
Sorry, they buy what?
They buy some like clothes
Yeah.
and then give to the poor people. Like that.
Yeah, they buy clothing and give it to poor people. It could be, yeah. It could be okay. In many institutes, they buy food and then give it to like students or those who are zakat eligible. That is also okay. But the only concern there is that if an institute, for example, is buying food or clothing, like you said, or something for all of their students, they have to make sure that every student is zakat is eligible for zakat, right? Usually, when it comes to madaris and institutes, they have no shortage of scholars there, so they know these things, and they usually have it set up in the correct manner. So, but still, then every person has the right, if to wherever you're giving your zakat, to ask them to explain to you and show you exactly how they disperse their zakat and how the conditions are being fulfilled.
So can you make any suggestion to use the zakat money? For example, I'm paying zakat to somebody, poor people, and can I make suggestion buy these kind of things with the zakat money, or do this business, or do that thing?
You could suggest it, that's fine, but it can't be a condition. It can't be placed, I'm giving you this zakat on the condition that you use it for this. That's where the issue comes in. If you just give you a suggestion, I'm giving you this zakat, maybe if you do this with it, it'll benefit you or something like that, that's okay. That's no problem. Yes, sister.
So do I have to go to just like poor people, or like if you go back to number 4, slide, those components need to be sought for Islam. could you give like a Quran, like for that someone who, you know, is interested in Islam, but it's okay translated honestly?
So actually, like I mentioned that this fourth category, it doesn't actually apply anymore. Yeah, at all. By the ijma, the consensus of the Sahaba was that this will not be given to people anymore, because that need that was there in the beginning, it's not only to soften people towards Islam, it's more to help Islam be established itself. And that would be at that time there was a need for more people to enter into Islam. So that's why that was placed. So for things like that, like buying Quran and stuff to give out, those would not be permissible in for this category.
What about like trying to build a masjid in an area that has no Islamic influence, like Norwegia?
Building a masjid in an area that has no Islamic input, still the funds, I mean, even if this did apply, zakat can't be given for the masjid project. It's not an individual, right? So it has to go, yeah, so that it would need to be in an individual to individuals, even in that case. And then, but then again, that wouldn't apply, because people who would be eligible in that place, who would use the funds again out of their own will for that masjid, they will already be Muslim and so on. So this wouldn't apply to them again. So it would come back to being those who are in need. And actually, National Zakat Foundation, they are somewhat incorporating this number 4 with number 1, that those new Muslims who are in need. So from one aspect, it is using number 4, but more so it's based off the number 1, that those who are in financial need. That's mainly it. Okay, I think brother. Can't I see this? Brother Tayyib had his hand up first, and a question came into the chat.
Okay, I'll go. Yeah, so I'm glad we're on this page. So just coming back to some of the questions I had earlier, I think you did somewhat answer my question just now regarding what going back to what Islamic institutions and and different masajid, like what we can't really give zakat to them even if they're in debt and so on and so forth. So number 4 is actually that sort of reminds me. So for example, now if there's a center that's trying to establish itself and they have different programs, once again, I think you've already asked this, but just to elaborate, let's say they're trying to establish a food bank right now. Once again, that, and they want to extend that to Muslims and non-Muslims alike. So now in that case, is that something that would be eligible? Like if it's a food bank for the poor and the needy, but part of the population will not be.
Yeah. So if they are able to separate their the donations they receive and only administer those funds that come in through zakat for Muslims, then it's fine. But if they don't have such a system, then you can't give them the zakat fund, because if it goes to a non-Muslim, the zakat won't be discharged.
Okay, and just if you don't mind, you might let me know if I'm at the limit of my questions. But, so any other eligible items or programs that they're trying to implement? So for example, if they don't yet have enough students or students coming in who can't pay for the classes or programs that they're offering, but proactively collecting zakat in their treasury, for example, is that can you proactively sort of tell people, hey, you could give us the zakat, it'll go into this, but they for example, they don't yet have that. This is all preemptive.
Yeah, you could do that. It's better not to, because there's that uncertainty that what if you don't get those people who need the zakat funds, and then you have that liability for people who gave you the zakat that you need to discharge it. Right. So it's better not to do that. usually what happens with an institute who have been receiving zakat funds over time, they know on average how much zakat funds they will need each year. So they collect only that much. So that would be the best route to go. But if someone does collect it, that when people come, then we will discharge it. That is okay. I mean, that's mainly what masjids do, right? They collect zakat funds, and then people come to them and they give them ahead. So that could be done, but it should be done with some sort of hindsight that how much do we actually need? You shouldn't just blindly keep collecting funds and then you get stuck and you don't know where to give them.
Right. So they should have a robust program or play in mind before proceeding with something like this. And finally, is there a difference of opinion in the eligibility?
No.
Okay. Perfect. Jazakallah.
The only difference that some scholars do have is that they say that you should give zakat to every category. Well, the 7. There's no difference of opinion that number 4 will not be given anymore, because that's, like I said, it's the consensus of the Sahaba, and no one can go against that. Some say that you should give it to all 7 categories, but that's not always possible. So the majority of scholars say that you need to give it to just one, or you try to diversify what you could, but even if it's just one, that's okay.
All right, I just have one question, but I'll come back to it. It's regarding a different topic, so I'll let the other question be answered if that's
okay. Sure. With a question: if someone receives stock investments from a company, pharmaceutical or transport company like Air Canada as bonuses, are such stock investments Sharia compliant? It depends on the company, really. We're a little bit going to be short on time, so I won't go into it right now. But there are a few different standards that have been set for stocks investments to be Sharia compliant. The largest one is the one by AAOIFI, AAOIFI, I think that's how it's spelled. And they set a criteria that if the company meets this requirement, this one, I think there's 3 of them. It looks at how much they are in debt, how much of their income is from halal or haram sources, and a few other things. So if it meets those criteria, then if you're getting stocks as bonuses from such companies, then they would be compliant and zakat would be due on them, like other stocks. Yes, Rutayeb?
Yeah, that partly answers my question. If let's say if we do get income of this nature and we just donate it immediately, I guess that's okay then, because it's sorry, that should be in the form of a question. Is that okay? Because if we just disperse it immediately, donate it without the intention of actually receiving a reward for it, because
yeah, if any, I mean, as a rule of thumb, if any wealth comes into your possession from impermissible means, then it should be given away in sadaqah without the intention for reward. That's the usual rule for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Someone pays zakat to show off. Zakat will be valid.
Someone pays zakat to show off. They may lose all the reward, but it will be discharged. Yeah.
Zakat will be valid, but the reward will be.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. If there are no other questions, then we will end it at that. Just one quick announcement. We have at Al-Ihsan, we have many different educational programs as well. One of our main ones is the Islam Comprehensive Program. Briefly summarize, this course has 6 different subjects in it: Tafsir, Hadith, Fiqh, Sirah, Foundations, and Arabic. And it's taught, it's a 2-year diploma program. Each course is taught one at a time over 4 months. The next one just happens to be Fiqh that is starting after Ramadan, inshallah, May 10th. So in there, we cover this whole list you see here of topics on fiqh. One of them is zakat. So here the focus was more on how to calculate zakat and different types of wealth. There we go a lot deeper into the specific requirements of zakat and all that, a lot more. It's a 4-month course, so you can imagine we go into a lot more things. So if anyone is interested in that, the registrations are open for that now. That will be all then. If there are no other questions, Jazakallah khair everyone for attending. Special thank you to all of our partners. This program wouldn't be possible without all of them. National Zakat Foundation, we've been working with them on this program for 3 years now. Islamic Relief, also this is the 3rd year with them. We've had many other programs with them as well. They also have a Grand Iftar dinner coming up on April 17. Mtj Foundation, we're also starting to work with them. Ask a Muslim, they are international organization. They deal mainly with educating Muslims and mainly new Muslims. So they're doing very good work in that. UNHCR, as you heard the report, mashallah, doing amazing work. And in such a short time, they've grown to such great lengths. We're looking forward to have many more programs with them in partnerships coming up as well. Enlightened Path Institute. This is Sheikh Adil who spoke in the beginning. This is his institute in Montreal, in Quebec. As I mentioned, Sheikh Adil also graduated from here from Al-Ihsan, and he opened that institute there. And we also have many more joint programs coming up with them as well. More information on all of these institutes, their projects, their contacts will be sent out to everyone. The slides will also be sent out to everyone. And we'll also have links in there, as Sheikh Nabil mentioned, for the one-on-one consultations, if anyone wants to use those. And my contact will also be there if anyone wants to follow up with me to ask any other questions or clarifications. We'll be more than happy to help you with that, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, everyone. We're very happy to have you with us. We hope to see you back again in the future. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.